It's finally happened. That manga you've been following week after week, the one you've laughed with, cried over, and theorized about, has come to an end. The final chapter has dropped, and now you've seen how it all wraps up. Maybe you're satisfied, ready to move on to your next big obsession. Maybe you're feeling a little empty, searching for something to fill that void. Or,
さて、推しの漫画の最後も見届けたし、ここらで私も終わりにしますか。
this is Undead Unluck, a manga serialized in the weekly Shonen Jump that has just reached its grand finale. The story introduces us to Fuko Izumo, a young woman who has spent her entire life cooped up in her room, escaping into the pages of her favorite manga. But when that manga ends, and she reads its final chapter, she feels like she has nothing left to live for. Sound familiar, right? A shut-in who's never touched grass reaches their breaking point, meets an untimely end via truck, train, or tragic snack-related incident, and wakes up in another world. Classic isekai setup. But hold on, I don't see an isekai tag anywhere. That can't be right. Right from the first episode, we're thrown into a world where this guy
Undead! Andy!
is completely incapable of dying, and this girl
Unluck! Fuko Izumo!
brings catastrophic misfortune to anyone she touches. Through a series of questionable yet entertaining scenes, we start to understand the power system. Undead's immortality comes with a catch. His body regenerates, but he has full control over how it regenerates. Unluck's ability causes increasingly severe disasters based on two unique factors: how long she touches someone, and how much of their body makes contact with her own. Now, based on that explanation, you probably think you've got a clear understanding of how their powers work, what their abilities can and can't do, right? Well, the fun thing is, Undead Unluck constantly pushes the boundaries of those rules and understandings. For example, Fuko's Unluck isn't just based on physical contact. It also scales with her emotions. The more she cares about someone, the stronger the disaster she invokes. And Andy? He doesn't just regenerate, he learns to selectively regenerate using his own body as a weapon, launching limbs like missiles and even flying. The key idea at play here is rules, not just in the world's power system, but in how we perceive limitations. The perfect example? Andy himself. He starts out believing he can only regenerate from his head, because, well, you need a brain to function. Logical, right? But then we meet Victor, another user of Undead, who regenerates from any part of his body and even creates clones of himself. Turns out, Andy's belief that he needed a head was the only thing holding him back. Once he let go of that assumption, his true potential unlocked. Later on in the story, we meet one of my favorite characters, a child with an unfortunate ability called Unknown. Nothing that they do, no words, no actions, can be perceived or acknowledged by others. They're invisible, unheard, untouchable. But they discover a powerful artifact, a pen that brings anything they draw to life. This sounds like a loophole, right? Well, it would be, except if nothing they can do can affect others, wouldn't that mean they can't draw anything that impacts people? If you're following the logic, you might assume they're completely powerless. But Unknown interprets the rule differently. They realize that if they can't affect others, then all they need to do is create someone else who can. And so, they do exactly that. They draw a character into existence, one who isn't bound by the same restriction. By shifting their own perspective, Unknown finds a way to rewrite their fate. And that right there is the essence of Undead Unluck, questioning the boundaries we take for granted and pushing past them. At its core, Undead Unluck isn't just a story about crazy powers and over-the-top fight scenes. It's a story about breaking free from limitations, questioning the rules that bind us, and redefining what is possible. Throughout both the anime and manga, we see this play out in a variety of ways through its power system. Abilities have clear, well-defined rules, but those rules are not absolute. They're just as much about perception as they are about reality. Time and time again, characters break past what they initially believed to be their limits, not by gaining new abilities, but by rethinking the ones they already have. Andy once believed he could only regenerate from his head, until he meets someone who shatters that belief entirely. Fuko believes that her ability is nothing but a curse, until she learns how to wield it with intent. Unknown assumes they can never affect the world around them until they shift their perspective and find a loophole in their own identity. This theme extends beyond just their powers. It's woven into the very structure of the story. Undead Unluck constantly sets up expectations, only to subvert them and push beyond them. The premise itself plays with the tropes we think we understand, but it then redefines them in ways that challenge our assumptions. The story doesn't just ask, what if? It asks, why not? This resonates on a deeply personal level because, in many ways, our own lives are dictated by the rules we impose on ourselves. Whether it's a belief that we're not talented enough, not strong enough, not capable enough, we all have mental barriers that shape our reality. But how many of those limitations are actually real? And how many exist just because we've never questioned them? When we watch Andy, Fuko, and the rest of the cast shatter their perceived limits, we're not just seeing great character moments, we're seeing a philosophy in action. We're being reminded that the only true limits are the ones we accept, and that's what makes Undead Unluck so special to me. It's not just a fun, action-packed manga, it's a story that fundamentally changes the way you look at problems, challenges, and possibilities. So, the next time you hit a roadblock, stop and ask yourself, is this a real limitation, or just one I've never questioned? Maybe the answer isn't, I can't. Maybe it's, I haven't figured it out yet. It has genuinely changed the way I see the world. Go out there, break a rule, redefine what's possible. This really has been our